Mr. Chairman, I want to talk about investment advisor exams. As you're likely aware, I've long been concerned that the SEC is able to only examine investment advisors on average once every 10 years. Last Congress, a bipartisan group of members, including former Chairman Backus, sponsored legislation to authorize the SEC to impose a user fee on investment advisors to increase the frequency of examinations. You and your predecessor both supported this approach, as well as SEC's Investor Advisor Committee, SEC's Investor Advocate, and the state securities regulators, as well as the industry itself, through the Investment Advisor Association. Nevertheless, our committee did not even consider this issue in a hearing. In your testimony, you note that you are considering the use of third-party exams as a means of supplementing SEC examinations. When the committee last considered the use of third-party exams, such as through FINRA, the Boston Consulting Group concluded that the cost would be twice as expensive as imposing a user fee. Do you think the third-party exams will be more expensive than if the SEC were to impose a fee?
It's hard to judge that on sort of this side of doing it if we do proceed in that direction. I certainly, share, and I've testified about it many times, the concern that I have about the gap in our examination coverage because of the lack of resources. That's been the situation, at the SEC for a number of years. I mean, tens of years. And I think certainly the method of whether it's a user fee bill or some other method that would get us the funding to be able to close that gap, which I think is important to close. We're smarter about our use of resources. We've reallocated some. This past year we had, I think, a 20% increase in the number of investment advisor exams that we did, but still we have the 10% coverage and 30% assets under management coverage. And so as the head of the agency, I look at what I think we need to be doing for investors and to fulfill our duties at the SEC, and then look again, as the Commission has in the past, in 2003, again in 2009, at the possibility of third-party exams to complement our OC examiners. It's not an optimal place to go, but I think we really do need to complement our ability to cover those investment advisors. Very important to particularly retail investors, but really the entire marketplace. It's lots of issues with respect to figuring that out. Who should do it? What's the expertise? What are the criteria? What are the costs? Does it apply to all investment advisors on what subjects? But I do think the time is now to act.
How would the SEC mitigate conflicts of interest that may arise from such third-party exams?
Clearly, one of the issues that has to be addressed and resolved optimally. You have that issue that is very present in any schema like that, and so you have to apply criteria as well as disclosure requirements.
How much would it cost the SEC to oversee and examine these third-party entities?
Again, that can't be judged in a vacuum, but it is certainly something that our economists will be studying.
So would you repeat one more time what percentage of the industry you're able to oversee, and how many years on average is it that you can actually do these examinations?
Well, it's a 10% coverage rate per year.
Only 10%?
10%, and that's 30% of the assets under management. We obviously try to select where we go smartly, and we do, and we've gotten a lot better at that. But it's and we, as I say, this past year we actually had a 20% uptick in the number of exams that we did, but it's still a 10% coverage, 30% assets under management coverage.
What is the danger that we are causing our constituents and investors with such little oversight and examination?
Well, I think you can't, as an enforcement compliance person most of my career, I think you can't overstate the importance of what we call boots on the ground. If you're not present in a space, anything can be occurring in that space. We do, by the way, supplement what we do with boots on the ground by a lot more data analysis, what are called desk reviews of information that we receive. That's good, but it's not a substitute.
Thank you. Recently, the SEC's approach to waivers from automatic disqualifications triggered by enforcement actions has drawn some criticism, especially in cases involving the largest financial institutions where waivers have been granted by SEC, mostly staff, we believe, on a seemingly reflective basis. According to one study of well-known seasoned issuer and Regulations A&D waivers between July 2003 and December 2014, large financial firms received 82% of waivers, the vast majority. And as you know, today I released a draft bill that would address this problem by requiring the SEC to implement a more rigorous and more public process for granting waivers. In your opinion, what additional steps could the SEC take to engage the public in the Department of Labor, as the Department of Labor has done, in its waiver process by seeking notice and comment on waiver applications and providing the opportunity for a public hearing?
Let me just say, I think my bottom line is, and I actually talked about this at some length about 10 days ago, outside the context of a specific case, just to try to bring more transparency and clarity to what I think really is a very robust process. And and in terms of the commission or the staff, some of the types of disqualifications and waiver decisions are made directly by the commission. Some have been delegated by the commission to the staff to make, but always subject to the commission, one commissioner even, calling them up for commission consideration. It's an issue we're across the commission quite focused on. So I think it is a robust process. We continue to examine it. We continue to also, okay. I'll have to finish my answer, I guess, at a QFR. I do look forward, Ranking Member, to a further conversation on this with you, as I indicated last week when we spoke on the phone.
The time of the gentlelady has expired. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Garrett.